What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Bengals NFL show. I'm your host, Braden Guthrie, and there is a lot of positivity today. We're going to be talking about the Browns game, the AFC playoff picture, while also being the holiday spirit. Elf is the best Christmas movie, by the way, but we're not talking about Elf. We are talking about the Bengals. And we're going to start by recapping the Bengals 23-10 win against the Browns. The start of the game didn't look very promising. The offense just kind of looked a bit confused, a bit dead, honestly. Burrow was really struggling to find his groove early in the game. His passes just seemed to be a bit off target, in that first quarter. The run game couldn't get established. The offensive line was struggling. So yeah, it almost looked like it was going to be another typical Bengals are about to choke to the Browns again, but obviously that was very much not the case. The offense eventually found its groove, and if it wasn't its most dominant performance after the slow start, Joe Burrow threw for 239 yards with 2 touchdowns and an interception. And can you guess how the interception went? From a tipped pass, of course. Still an issue the Bengals offense needs to figure out. Is it Burrow? Is it the offensive line? So it's not exactly sure who the blame is to be on. I'm sure it's a combo of both. But other than that tipped interception pass and kind of going off that slow start, Burrow was extremely effective. You know, there's so many arguments saying that Burrow relies on the talent around him. He can't... If he didn't have these targets, he wouldn't be winning. Oh, that theory should be put to bed. It should have been put to bed a few weeks ago. I mean, this offensive starting receivers was Chase, obviously, and Trenton Irwin and Trent Taylor. Trenton Irwin and Trent Taylor were 2 of the 3 starting receivers, and yet Joe Burrow got them involved in the offense. And he got the offense to still be effective with them starting and not T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd. Great quarterbacks do that. So if you're still arguing Burrow's only good because of the talent around him, you clearly have not watched Joe Burrow closely. You clearly have a minimal football knowledge if that's still your reason for why Burrow's overrated or not good. And there really shouldn't be any arguments anymore that Burrow isn't a top 5 quarterback. I think we're in the argument now where he's the 3rd best quarterback in the NFL behind Mahomes and Allen. Now that's a conversation for a different time, but Burrow keeps on proving he does not need to rely on Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Hayden Hurst, who was also out for this game, Mitchell Wilcox getting some snaps for him. So yeah, you add that, Burrow was missing 3 of his 5 core skilled players. Obviously, you had Jamar Chase, who we're about to talk about here, second, and Joe Mixon, 2 guys who he didn't have for a good bit to help him on offense, still effective. So yeah, they had their replacement starters were, as I said, Trenton Irwin, Trent Taylor, and also Mitchell Wilcox. He found a way for the offense to be effective with them starting. Now, I don't want to take anything away from those guys, but because they did perform well for the most part, I was very impressed by them. But when you look at reality, going from Burrow, Higgins, Boyd to Chase Higgins, Boyd to Chase, Taylor, Irwin, that's a drop-off, but yet you didn't see a drop-off from Joe Burrow. And you know, like I said, I don't want to disrespect Trent Taylor or Trenton Irwin, but they're not Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins. They're not these great receivers. They are, for a few years, have been fringe practice squad players that got onto the 53-man roster for special teams or needed depth. And they're now starting and being productive. Joe Burrow has a huge part in that. You know, part of being a QB is making your receivers look good, and that's what he did. And again, that is not taken away from Irwin or Taylor because they also had good games, but if those guys had, let's say, Derek Carr or, heck, for fun, Andy Dalton as the quarterback, they probably don't find that production that they had with Joe Burrow. Now let's move on to Jamar Chase, because man oh man, he had a great day. He really stepped up. He had 10 catches for 119 yards and a touchdown. That touchdown was just absolutely perfectly executed from Burrow and Chase. Burrow couldn't find more of a tight window to throw the ball into, but he got the ball in that tight window, threw it perfectly. Then Jamar Chase was in a perfect position to catch it. Chase even said he didn't even see the ball until like a second before he caught it. So great reaction from Chase. And also love going back to the Burrow support real quick. Burrow threw that perfectly. Like, if that's any other place, that's incomplete or intercepted or you're leading Chase to his death. But because where he located that ball, that was a touchdown. And of course, because of Chase's natural instinctual reaction, his true talent, that's how that play was executed. You know, this was a rough situation for Chase being the only starter and just not being the only starter, being one of the best in the NFL. So, of course, the Browns defense focused a lot on Chase. They had a lot of double teams on them. Browns knew that with these guys out, they would be relying on Chase a lot. Despite that, Chase still, as we said, 10 catches. That just shows how phenomenal of a player Jamar Chase is. Even when the defense knows his route tree is so diverse, his speed, elite. So, yeah, there's just no true way to stop Jamar Chase, even when the rest of the offense is struggling. Burrow proved that, and Chase certainly proved it. He can certainly step up when it is needed. And I think the highlight of the game has to be that flea flicker. Oh my goodness, Zach Taylor went deep into his bag for that. What a play call. Perfect execution. Hit a wide open Trenton Irwin for a touchdown. Really glad Trenton Irwin was able to get another touchdown. Just so easy to root for that guy. But I just want to give a lot of praise to Zach Taylor for just not this game, the past few games. If you follow me on Instagram, you've probably seen my post about this. Because early in the season, we were criticizing Zach Taylor extremely harshly. And I still believe that was very valid criticism. Now, some of the reactions from his poor coaching, like the people calling for his heads to be fired, obviously that wasn't justified, but what we wanted to see when we were criticizing Taylor was improvements, more diverse formations, go off script more, don't rely on the game plan, and we have seen that. Taylor has made those adjustments, and that's what a good coach does. And over these past few weeks, he was able to out-scheme Vrabel. He was able to out-coach Andy frickin' Reid. Lou Anarumo also a big part of that. Let's not leave him out. But whereas the head coach, Taylor, after that horrid 0-2 start and after that really horrid, disappointing, disastrous Monday Night Football game against the Browns, he has really stepped it up as a play caller, and he deserves all the credit in the world. If we're going to criticize him. But when he deserves praise, let's make sure we're giving Taylor a praise. As a head coach in general, he is absolutely phenomenal. Because as a play caller, that was a much different story. He's far from a perfect play caller now, but the progress he has made from the Browns game to, well, this past Browns game, going full circle, has been tremendous. Again, I absolutely love that play call by Zach Taylor for the flea flicker. Then the one for Jamar Chase to throw it, don't know what that was, got a little too cocky, and that play ended up getting blown up. Absolutely hated that play call, but I'm not about to tear down Taylor, call him a horrible coach, or call him for his head after trying another trick play. Hopefully that's a lesson that don't run too many trick plays in one game. Now going to the defensive side, a few things we need to talk about, and we're going to talk about the Bengals' second-round pick from this past 2022 draft, and that is Cam Taylor-Britt. And Cam Taylor-Britt really stepped up on Sunday. Multiple PBUs, pass breakups, but his real highlight came in the fourth quarter. It was 4th and 4 for the Browns. They tried a fade in the back of the end zone. Cam Taylor-Britt was in perfect position, broke up the pass. And, the Browns had a very long drive before that 4th and 4, and that just took away all the momentums. That was a game-changing play. Because the Browns score there, they're down by 6 points with plenty of time left in the fourth quarter. But because CDB made that play, it gave the Bengals so much more breathing space. It gave the offense less pressure and put the Bengals simply in a better position to win. So a great game from Cam Taylor-Britt. I would say a breakout game. These past few games he's shown flashes but not consistency. And he didn't have a perfect game Sunday, but he played consistently well. Now the next guy we got to talk about is the game MVP, DJ Reader. DJ Reader just had an absolutely phenomenal game. Absolutely tore up that Browns rushing game. Nick Chubb was basically able to get nothing. The Bengals were able to stop that run game, make Watson throw, which Watson was very inconsistent at. But yeah, when you got a guy like DJ Reader who's tearing apart the Browns offense, a offense that mainly relies on the run, he really stepped up and really helped this defense. The defense as a whole played extremely well, only giving up 10 points. But that's a big part because of just how well DJ Reader was performing. Basically, was a huge part in taking away the identity of that Browns offense. So like I said, DJ Reader is this game MVP. If you disagree, comment who you think the game MVP should be. And for the defensive side, that's all who I really want to talk about. Obviously, there are other players who deserve recognition, but for time's sake, we are going to move on. I just really wanted to highlight them. Also give a quick shout out to Jesse Bates. Had that huge interception on a terrible throw by Watson. Bates has been getting a lot of criticism this year. Most of the criticism coming just because of the contract situation. I think a lot of the criticism he gets is overreactive, and honestly, not all of it is valid or justified. But what is valid is he hasn't played as well this year as he has last year. That is no secret. But he had a huge game-changing interception on Sunday. So great job by Jesse Bates. I think this whole criticizing him to criticize him because of the contract situation is a bit premature. And like I said, he hasn't been as well as he was last year, but on Sunday he really stepped up and helped the Bengals win. Now we're going to go to the AFC North playoff picture. I'll put up a picture of it here. So where it sits at, Ravens are still leading the AFC North. They have the tiebreaker against us. We're both 9-5. Obviously, the Ravens beat us a few months ago. That's obviously why they have the tiebreaker. And the Ravens' remaining schedule is the next week against the Browns, against the Falcons, against the Steelers. Then in Week 18, they play us. Now, in the wild card situation, we have the highest position in the wild card, ranked as 5th at 9-5. Second in the playoff wild card position, or which would be the 6th seed. Bengals currently sit at the 5th seed, is the Miami Dolphins, who currently sit at 8-5. They just lost on Monday Night Football to the Los Angeles Chargers. Tua had an extremely rough game, and he received his fair share of criticism for that. And as of now, the 7th seed, somebody who the Bengals play in a few weeks is the Patriots. They sit at 7-6. They're looking to sneak in there. And the Chargers and Jets are in the hunt, both at 7-6 as well. So it's going to be a close race. Obviously, the Bengals having that game lead, and also if it comes to a tiebreaker against the Dolphins, they have that tiebreaker as well. But mainly I bring this up based off the Ravens because, as many anticipated, the winner of this division will come down to Week 18. And I think that is absolutely proving to be true, especially with the Ravens' easy schedule coming up. Obviously, the Bengals a bit more difficult. We'll get to that in a second. But the Ravens also don't have Lamar Jackson for this. Last I saw, will likely be out for the next 2 games, which means he'll miss against the Browns and Falcons. Now, and that could be a huge problem against the Browns. On paper, the Ravens should beat the Browns no problem with Lamar Jackson, but they don't have Lamar Jackson. That being said, Tyler Huntley, I honest to God think, is a better passer than Lamar Jackson. But also without Lamar, that huge run game takes a toll. It's not as reliable. So the question is, can the Browns and that defensive line take advantage of Lamar being out and that hurting the Ravens offense? And can it overall result to a Browns win next week, and a Bengals win would put the Bengals officially in first place. But then again, like I said, then they play the Falcons. Huntley or Lamar, they're winning that game. Then the Steelers, that's who they just barely beat this week. It was, the score is slipping in my mind, but they either won by 1 or 2 in it was really poor, boring game, honestly. Admittedly, I didn't watch a whole lot. I was focused on the Bengals game, but they didn't look overly confident or reliable as a playoff team last week. But you have to remember, no Lamar, and he will be back before the Bengals beat him, bearing any news. So yeah, it's looking like the Ravens are going to have an easy way these next few weeks before they play us. And like I said, they have a chance to lose against the Browns and the Steelers. AFC North games are always extremely intense. They're always closer than the paper may suggest it should be. So, as much as I hate to say it, we have to root for the Browns and the Steelers. Sorry, I almost puked there saying that. That's just the reality of the NFL. Sometimes you got to root for your enemies for your own team's sake. But yeah, it looks like this Week 18 very well could be a tie-breaking game. Who's going to win the division? So that is something to look out for. Then in terms of wild card, I just gave the rankings and who seeds at what. The Bengals do seem to be in comfortable position there. As I said, Dolphins are the 6th seed. The Bengals have the tiebreaker against them. The Patriots, they just really don't feel like a threat. Obviously, the Bengals play them a week from Sunday. But I think the Bengals can win that. I am confident in saying that. And with the Chargers and Jets, if for some reason the Jets have a strong end season, the Bengals have a rough end of the season, and Bengals and Jets tie records, Bengals have the tiebreaker there. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Even if the Bengals don't win the division, our playoff chances are looking extremely good right now. But like I said, we won't know where they truly rank in the playoffs until after that Week 18 game against the Ravens. And of course, maybe the Ravens just lose out and makes it easy for the Bengals to win the division. That would be great. Not relying on it. There's a lot of things that can still happen. There's still a month left in the NFL season, still 4 games, so a lot can change. But I want to talk about the playoff picture because the Bengals lead the wild card, are in very much position to win the AFC North. The Bengals' next 2 games shouldn't be overly difficult, but then Bills and Ravens to close out the season will be a tough task. So I think for these weekly videos until the playoffs, I will be talking about the playoff picture just so we can keep updated, know where we stand. Now that being said, guys, that's all I have for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and you're interested in more Bengals analysis, Bengals highlights, and or if you're a fan of Marvel, DC, I do trailer and reactions in that area. Please hit the subscribe button. It helps me out so much. If you haven't yet, check out my top 5 Bengals plays against the Browns from this past, Sunday. Thank you guys so much again for watching. Hoo day.